This is the follow-up example to the last video I made on establishing foundations as a starting point for songwriting. The song I'm going to break down is the first track of my demo called Apathy. This isn't the first song I ever wrote. That distinction goes to Drifting, which is the lead track from my EP Insomnia, hence the clean vocals. But it is the first track that I wrote after I got into black metal, which must have been around 2 years ago. I picked this song because it's exactly the scenario I outlined earlier. It started out as a single riff and 2 lines of lyrics, and I really developed my style while I was writing this song. It does a pretty good job representing what you'll find from my project, even though I actually consider one of my weaker tracks. The entire song is based on a 4-chord riff that's just repeated over and over again. While it's kind of minimalistic in this sense, I try to avoid making it repetitive by constantly changing everything else around it. The takeaway from my last video is this motion's mainly driven by the drum pattern, while the vocals and bass adapt around that. So, into the music. I have a setup here where my headphones are going to play the audio directly into my camera, so hopefully it does a decent job picking up the sound of the music as well as my voice. If not, I'll try to mix the actual track in and probably put it on one side so that you can hear while I'm talking. The riff I'll demonstrate when I get to the guitar section, which is going to be the next video. I want to split everything up piece by piece because I'd like to use these videos as sort of a template for when I go breaking into my entire library, which is my long-term plan for videos. For now, I'll try to use this song for as many examples as I can, but I'll split out if I have to. So onto the track. So after a snare hit on 4, Apathy begins with a 4-chord riff played over a basic 2/4 drum pattern, and the bass line is adapted from the main riff. Now the vocals come in after 2 lines with a strict meter that's split into 3 2-syllable groupings. After these 2 lines, the drum pattern adds double kicks underneath and the vocal meter changes slightly to follow it. This is maintained for 4 lines before we move into another big change. So next, the drums here go into a 3 pattern with double kick still underneath. The vocal meter changes once again, but now the bass line also changes to follow the other 2 tracks. After this little 2-line section, we start over from the beginning. And everything is basically maintained from the first 2 lines. Vocals, bass. Now for the next piece, instead of adding double kicks to a 2/4 pattern, the drums actually change into an off-center pattern. It's not exactly a blast beat, it's more of an off-center blast beat that's played in half time. Here there's a snare hit on the end of each beat. I'd call it an off-center quarters pattern, where a quarters pattern is a pattern where you have a snare on each beat. That's a pattern you'll find commonly for fills, but it's not really something you'll see in a bass. Now this still transitions into double kick 3s like before, and the ending to this section, I hesitate to call it a verse because it's not exactly a verse, but the ending to this section is pretty much the same as the section before it. Now the song breaks down into a clean guitar section. The riff is basically still the same riff, except the second chord's omitted. The only difference really is that we're playing on a clean tone instead of a distorted tone. The drum pattern's a basic 3, a half-timed breakdown 3 pattern, and there is no bass in this section. Then we add some double kicks. We play this for 2 whole lines. There's a brief fill that comes in between the 2 double kicks. The structure of the song basically repeats from the beginning. I really hate this prep scream that's coming up. I wish I'd done it with just the traditional like an scream that's open instead of one that sort of like crescendos up. I really hate the way it sounds. Finally. These two lines were the first lines that I ever wrote for the song, and the lyrics are based on the story that's told by the two lyrics. So that's basically a rundown of the entire song and the way it was composed. I'm hoping this example can clarify some of the points I made in my last video, especially about how drum patterns change the way a riff can feel, and how you can adapt to the rest of your song by building on top of a foundation that you create.